Hello, and welcome to Email Marketing Strategies and Best Practices presented by Member 365. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Christine Bundy, and I am the Director of Customer Success here at Member 365. And fun fact is I love questions. So if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. All questions are good questions, even if they're not quite related to the topic we're discussing today and you want to ask, feel free. If I can't address it today, I will always follow up. Everyone has been muted. All cameras are turned off, and today's session is being recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel. All right, so let's dive in to what we're going to cover today. So for the agenda, we're going to go over how to create an email campaign, super simple process, how you can save it, how you can use templates, how you can duplicate, all those fun things, do's and don'ts that you want to do while doing your email campaigns to ensure that things do not go into spam filters, and things that you should do to prevent them. We'll also go through some of the settings that you can adjust for those. And then we'll look at your analytics pages as well as the bounce reports and the purpose behind those. And then I'll go review those do's and don'ts that I kind of mentioned throughout, and maybe a couple that I don't. And then we'll go through questions. And if you have questions throughout, just post them in the Q&A because I sometimes will see them and answer them as we go. So let's dive into Member 365. So this is our play site that we like to come and play in. And so one thing that I always like to point out is that if you are not seeing what I'm seeing, it's because your admin permissions are limited. So if you do not see email campaigns, which is what we're talking about today, it means you do not have admin permission to do so. You need to go to your admin manager to be able to be granted access and be granted permissions for the things that we're talking about today, if they are for you to be in charge of. Member 365 team members cannot grant or remove admin access for security and privacy policy reasons. So if there are two ways to create an email campaign, you can simply come in here and hit create campaign, or you can go to your reports and go to a previous campaign, and you can come in here and you can duplicate a campaign. So one that you have previously not that previously used. So I typically month over month when we're doing even our newsletters, I actually duplicate my last one because I've always made slight adjustments to my template. But it's up to you on how you and your team or how to best manage that. You can create templates that can be found under here. And so you can use the same template time and time again. Those templates are really great for having as backups for if you ever need to go back to your default. Just something to consider. Again, we will provide you with all the options and ways that people do things, and it's up to you to make the best business decisions for you and your organization. All right, so let's go and we're going to create one from scratch. So first things first is, what is the name of your campaign? So this is for internal purposes. So no one else sees this name. This is for your team. And if you ever see these little icons on the side, it is to help you with help text. So this could be your newsletter. So again, it could be something straightforward as a newsletter for November 2024. And then the subject line could be something a little bit more upbeat. So you could just do a subject line for that has a little bit more click-through rate appropriate. So having keywords that will trigger people to actually open your email. Now, they might just want to have it say newsletter for your organization, or you can use tools such as like GTP, or I like the one Cider, which has a bunch of them all together, and you can ask it to come up with a catchy line for you and tailor it. Things to be aware of: no emojis. No emojis in subject lines. I know they look cool. I know I love them too. I love using using them. I use them on personal level. I sometimes use them on professional to give thumbs up and say hooray. They don't go in email campaigns because systems don't like them. People think they're spammy, or firewalls think they're spammy, especially institutions. Institutions do not like them whatsoever. Military, anything along those lines, they do not like when you put emojis and things. So even in your email content, you don't want to have it there whatsoever. So hold on one sec. I just on my other newsletter. So actually here, I will actually bring it up. So one of the tools that I like to use, again, you don't have to use this one. You could use whatever one you like, but you could just say, I would like a news. Let's make sure we spell that right. Additional ones. So just make sure that you're specific when you are doing it so you don't get those. So do proper prompts. So for today, we're just going to say newsletter so we don't play around too much with that. But again, fun things to check out if you aren't already thinking about it. Next is the name. So my name, I am logged into the system as member 365 admin. So that is what is appearing on the screen. So whoever the admin is that you are logged in as is the name that appears. Now you can change the name, not a problem. You can also change the email. However, and I've had this asked this week alone 4 times. So I'm going to bring this up. It needs to be a domain authenticated email. It can't be a AOL. It can't be a Hotmail. It can't be a Yahoo. It cannot be a Gmail. Those emails automatically do not get sent due to the new regulations, which is why you also have them authenticated, have your DMARC done and your SPF. And if you don't know what those are, we do have articles on them. If you are getting them pop up on your screen, that's why you haven't gotten this done and you need to. So please reach out to us. But so you can change it to be a different person, but the domain still needs to be authenticated. So something to take into consideration. Okay. Excuse me. So in here are all the different templates. Now we have quite a few in here that have been here from the beginning, also added some new ones in over the years. If you ever have templates for yourself, they will automatically appear in here. So you can select from one of those. I always sometimes just like to start from scratch because it's super easy to make these. All you have to do is drag and drop. So I start with the rows and I bring them over and I go up to where I get that blue line where it says drag it here, and then you release. And I do that a few times with single rows. Now, you do have the option to do columns. However, you want to be careful when you're using columns. You don't want to have an image and text next to each other when you're using column for mobile purposes. If you're using 2 images next together, no problem. If you're doing text and text, no problem. But when you're doing images and text, there was this new release on phones. And because phones now are all different sizes and we try to make them as mobile friendly as possible, but when they're within the frame, they don't adjust accordingly and the text goes like straight down the screen. And I've had it where I get it from other providers that aren't using our system all the time on my phone, and I have to switch my phone from this way to this way so that it shows the information correctly and doesn't look skewered. And it happens on random because it depends on the device and it depends on the size of the phone, and there's quite a few contributions to that. So when you are making these emails, you want to consider, because everyone now likes to scroll, to put it in a scrolling format. You also don't want to make it too big. If it's too big and it's going to have too much information, turn it into a blog. If they start to get, if you have it as like a PDF and it's more than 2 pages, it's too long. If it's more than a page, you're getting, it's good to go. But anything kind of more between 1.5 to 2 pages is too long. You want to shorten it. And make it more concise. So you want to have at least 80% content, 20% images, and links. And I know that's hard. We have a hard time with it and adding the correct amount of content and everything like that. But you can come in and drag your images and have them in here. And you can have buttons, so call to actions. You can add your actual content. You can add in dividers. You can have social media at the bottom, which I'm going to add a row for that. because that looked a little funny there. Again, I can move them between the different rows. Now, why do I have all these rows? That's probably one question that you're wondering, is because I sometimes need to move my information around. So each of these rows is a subject. So I'm going to use our newsletter as an example. Our first subject is always the blog, and then we talk about the webinars, and we have the tip of the month. So when the most commonly thing that we get asked, we put a tip in. And then we have our release notes. So anything that new that's been released that we want to let you know aware of, that we think is cool, that you want to maybe get a little bit more attention. So if I ever want to move them around, I can simply just take it and move it the entire section instead of moving each individual piece on its own. So I always put sections together to make it easier, because at times you always want the most important thing. The number one thing you want everybody to reach be the first thing in the email. If you have a call to action that is very important to your organization, then it should be the first thing that they look at, because the likelihood of them reading past that first point is small, and you want to make sure that you get what they need out of it as soon as possible. Super easy to edit the content, simply highlight, and you can type in what you need. You can add merge tags, so first names, last names. You can also add in some personalization. The one thing that you do not need to add to these emails, though, is your unsubscribes, because the system will automatically add it at the end. So all you have to do is up until your social media, and then at the end, automatically, when you send it through the spool, not testing, through the spool, your unsubscribe messaging. And I will show you where to change those settings shortly. For buttons, you can change the labeling. You can also come over the side here and change coloring, so it can be more of your brand colors. You can increase font size. Industry standard sizes now is around 18. I know that seems really big, but it's just so people can see it and on their phone. One thing that I always like to do with buttons is I always like to fully expand them, because they're a call to action. So I like to make them a little bit bigger. And also on the mobile devices, if they're at 100%, it's really easy for them to be pressed instead of trying to get your finger in the right position. Those are sometimes frustrating for me. If you have photos, you can upload your own photos. So if you have some, now I have a whole bunch in here from doing this webinar a few times, but we do have free ones. So you can search. Oh, what are we going to search today? Let's do owls. And so these are from Pixabay. So you can use them. And oh, this is a cool one. So you can add it into your collection, and then you can click to insert it, and it will be added in as one of the photos. You can also drag and drop into here. So if you have logos and things along those lines, you can. You can add links and or files. So that's another commonly asked. You can add files into your text. You just have to use your file manager. So it's in the same place as where your images are, but you can upload them here and then add them to buttons and to text. One thing when you are adding it to text, oh, and don't do what I just did. I hit the back button, not the save or back button here. So don't do that. It's a mistake I commonly make sometimes. So everything I just did was likely saved, but this is the button you hit to go back, not this one. And if you are in your image, if you're changing images and you're in here, go up and hit the exit button, not the back button. Again, common mistake I make. So I always like to correct them when I see them. And all right, so we talked about files, we've talked about images, videos. So yes, there is a video one here. You can use it. It's just plugging in the URL. It will not play in it. It goes to that link. I personally like just using an image and then having a watch video on the image and having them click the image. That's my preference. You could use either or. Most of the time, that's what people do use when I recommend it. So it's up to you. You can delete them if they don't fit in and add more different content if you want. We're just going to fill this in with some information. And when you're ready, when you have all your information and you can change all the settings and customize it to the way you want. You can also, by the way, change background colors. So if you want to change your background colors or things along those lines, you can as well. Don't use red. Red is not good for, it's fine if you're using it for like your dividers, or if you're using it maybe for your button links, but not your content in any shape or form. You can blame the first set of spammers. That's what they always put in. And I know it's a catchy, but spam filters don't like it, and they automatically will just put it into a spam folder. So don't do it. You can send a test here to yourself or multiple people by just adding between the name. If you ever want to use this blog or this, if you ever want to have this newsletter as a blog, you can copy the source code and embed it into your page. After you're checking your images and your links after you've embedded it to make sure that everything's working correctly and you don't have to make any adjustments. And then you can send it here. You can save it as a template so that it's part of your templates for next time. As a draft as you're working. So if you're going to walk away, save as a draft before. If you ever get a message because you've been on this page for a long time and you're nervous, don't close it. Open a second window, re-log in, come back, and then resave. Don't close the window down until you've saved it, or you might lose your work. I've had that happen a couple times, once to me, and I've heard it a few times also this week with other people who have been working on their newsletters. Once everything's done, we're going to go to continue, and you're going to select the recipients that you want to have sent the newsletter or email that you are creating. Now, in here, you're going to see there are sign-up forms and there are custom forms. So in our last webinar, when we were talking about the list builder, we talked about sign-up forms and custom lists. Now, if I select two different lists, one is a sign-up form and one is a custom form, or if I have two sign-up forms and two custom forms, if I have someone on every single list, they're only sent the email once. So they're only sent to one individual that has email consent, even though they're on all four lists. You can also create an import list directly from here if you need to. You can do additional recipients. Now, this is for like 20 max people. You don't want to have a large amount of people. There is, I think it's like, there is a maximum on this page, and it's always best that you import them as contacts. If you're going above 20, you want to have a list for everybody instead of just adding them in. This is if you have like one-offs, for example, like you want to make sure your boss gets it as it's going out, or you want to have a third-party partner that you don't want in your system to be able to get the email so they can see that you put in their advertising. Things along those lines is what you put in for additional recipients. And then exclusions. And now we all have that one. We all know who they are in our system or database. There's that one person that you're like, they should not get this communications whatsoever. So just to be safe, I'm going to put them in here as an exclusion so I don't have to worry about it. That's what the exclusion is there for. Or if they express they don't want to, you can again put them in. It's rarely used, but I have had a few associations use it. You can send another test to yourself or to your colleagues. Always at least have two people read emails before going out, because links and check every link. And I know it's really repetitive, but it's best. You can preview it. Once you have your recipients selected, click continue. And then you'll see the total number of recipients you have. Now mine's really low for the system, but that's okay. If your list number is higher than what you see here, it's because you don't have consent settings. So if someone has a red line on the list, that's why they're not appearing in this number. So you might have 20 people in your list, but 10 of them don't have consent, so only 10 people are getting emails. Then you can either schedule it to go out immediately, or you can schedule it for a later date, and you can pick your time zone. And so you can send that out. Now, how do I change my time zone? Let's go into your settings. And there are a few options here. So here's where you can change your time zones. And so it will be standard going forward for your emails. You can also adjust the language for when people go to unsubscribe, you can have an unsubscribe notification. And you can also adjust your language here. Now, you cannot remove any of these merge tags. They are required by law to be in there, but you can adjust the wording, and the link here has to be in there. So some people like to change it to preferences. You can sort it in a different way, but it is all required. You can add to it, but this is automatically added to the bottom of every single email campaign that is sent out from Member 365 to adhere to CAN-SPAM and CASL laws. So yeah, this is something that is new. So just something to be aware of, that indicate the email to notify unsubscribes so that somebody can be notified on your team. And then if you need more than one, just add a separate comma. Always hit save to make any updates. All right, so let's go into reports. And go to analytics. So we have analytics and we have email bounces. So first, analytics. So in here is where you're going to be able to see your signups for your signup forms, your email campaigns, how many have gone out, and then what your average open rate is. Now, the average open rate is actually, well, since the report came in for 2023, funny enough, I read about this just yesterday, is about 20%. So if you're over 20%, you're doing awesome. And I know some people are like, well, we want 40%. Amazing. But again, the benchmark for the industry for emails being sent out is around 20%. Now, it does vary between your profession and things along those lines. So something you can look into, but it does give you in here at least your open rates, your click-throughs, your unsubscribes, and the number of recipients. And when I go into one of these older ones, it'll give you all the recipients it's been sent out to, how many times they've personally opened it, if anyone's unsubscribed, and it gives you all of your analytics at the top as well. And also the lists that you have sent it to. One thing or two things I like to always point out is there are times when someone has a 0 for opens and yet 1 or 2 clicks. And this happens when they haven't deemed your email address as safe. And all of the images have not popped up. So all of the coding behind all the analytics for any system is behind the images that you have. And so if it's not deemed as safe, those codes and are not being opened. And so therefore the opens are not showing, but they may have clicked on things. That's something that we see every once in a while. So if you've ever seen that, that's why. Another thing that I sometimes get asked about is when your open rate is atrociously high, like 60 for like one individual, and you're like, that's impossible. Welcome to the tabbers. So funny enough, my boss is a tabber. He will go through his emails by hitting the tab button on his keyboard. Instead of going and scrolling through, he'll just tab through his emails all day. Every time you hit tab, it technically opens the email, which is an open rate. And so therefore it skyrockets their personal open rate because they are tabbing, and every time they're tabbing, it's making that number go up. So just things to notice if you see kind of those kind of outliers, those kind of are the explanations and trends I've seen over the years. All right, next we have email bounces. Now, this report is also found on your dashboard. So it is part of your dashboard. And you can come in here and see your soft blocks and hard bounces. You can remove soft and blocked ones by easily just coming in and clearing it. When you clear it, it goes into your log. So the second report, it will just clear it out of this and go into your log report so you know that it was there. But this report is basically to alert you that this is what's happening. So you can clear all of the softs, and you can hide the hard bounces. Hard bounces cannot be cleared unless you provide evidence to us that the email is working and they have received, and you have received email communications from them. We will remove the hard block once, but if it continues to return, we will not remove it again. And that's to adhere adhere to our email reputations and to make sure that we're not getting on any blacklists and to make sure that your emails are going to continue to get through. Now, it does give explanations as to why these are happening. So especially for your hard bounces, you want to look into that. And if the access is simply denied, 90% of the time, it's because that individual at some point has marked your email as spam. And so it's not getting access in. And so they have to go and whitelist your email address. All right, so those are the reports. And again, this is a tool. So one other thing is this is a tool. This does not necessarily need to be cleared out. However, you can clear it and then just keep track of it and then have the log for reporting purposes. If people are like, why am I not getting emails? Well, you're on the bounce log. It also does show next to a contact record. So if you go to a contact record, it will show that they are on the bounce. This email has been bounced. So that is something that is showing up so that's if you're seeing that on anybody's record, that gives you a good indication as to why they're not receiving email communications. All right, so let's go back and do a few do's and don'ts. And then if you have any questions, please put them into the Q&A. All right, do's. Build a targeted list. So as I also mentioned in our last webinar for your email lists, you want to be concise and have your filters correct. You don't want to just be spamming everyone. And I know that newsletters are, and this is a little bit of a contradictory statement, so bear with me. Newsletters are supposed to go to all members or all clients, but if they don't want it, then they're going to unsubscribe, which makes your unsubscribe rate go down. So you want to make sure that people want to receive the communication. So using sign up forms is great, or at least having them opt into them is great too. So just making sure that you're sending the right communications to the right segments, so you're not going to get a unsubscribe rate go down. Then you have your personalized email. So adding merge tags whenever possible, making sure your emails are concise and to the point. Don't make them too long. Making sure they are optimized for mobile, clear call to actions using buttons. One thing I forgot to mention, if you do put links in your text, bold it. Make sure it's big and bold so they see it. Otherwise, they might not realize that it's a link and to click it. Making sure your domain is authenticated. If you need us to check, let me know and I can check for you. And be careful with keyword styling. So making sure that you're not using emojis and not using red text, things like that. Then you also have testing. So making sure you're testing and sending it out to multiple people. Don't use emojis. Don't use red lettering. Avoid trigger words. We do have a list of trigger words not to use and alternatives for them. There is a link in our new article, so something to consider. Then we also have avoiding columns for mobile if you're using an image and text next to each other, go in a row. Making sure that you aren't overusing images or large files or too many links. So again, make that 80-20 rule. All right, so we have some questions, so thank you for those. This is one of the best and most webinars I've attended. Thanks. You are very welcome. Things I don't remember. Could the recording be emailed to us or where can we find it? So it will be posted on the YouTube channel. You can definitely get access to it there. So all of our webinars get posted on our YouTube channel and you can rewatch them as often as possible. Jessica, if you really want it sent to you, let me know and I can do that for you. That's not a problem when it gets released. If anyone has any other questions, so if anything comes up as we leave and you're like, aha, don't forget, we're here to help. You can always submit a ticket. If you have chat, you can hop on chat with us. And if you need anything else, we are here to help. So don't hesitate to reach out. We have our knowledge base and also our video library on YouTube, which is all directly inside your site. So on your dashboard, all of this information is available to you right at your fingertips on your dashboard in your help center. So don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you all all very much for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you next week.